Hi, this is Al Clemmons, and this is HE 527, review of Units 1 and 2, Part 2 of the two-part series. And we left off talking about frames of reference. There are multiple frames of reference for reviewing learner performance. Among them is the question of ability. Educators can assess the learner's ability to perform. It's not uncommon for learners to ask, "Am I able?" And our interpretation of their performance will help them answer their question. Another frame of reference is the student's sense of growth compared to previous performance. Learners not only compare themselves to a previous performance, but they often consider how they compare to others. This can sometimes be helpful in instilling confidence, but can also prove distracting because learners sometimes feel they can't keep up, and that leads them to question what they can and cannot do. Criterion reference interpretations allow learners to describe what they can and cannot do. The key for educators is to help learners accurately assess their capabilities. And when it comes to assessment, few things serve educators and learners better than formative assessments. When learners are assessing themselves, they would typically want to know what they can and cannot do, and formative assessments tell them the answer to that question. Formative assessments are used as a monitoring tool to consistently, continuously, and descriptively give feedback to learners. This feedback is priceless to a learner and equally so to the educator because it's an excellent, just-in-time review of their learning. Formative assessments can also be tied to summative assessments. Summative assessments begin with the end in mind. And what is the end state of a course of learning for any learner? These are identified through how the learner compares to others and the standards. It's also a way for the institution to offer its official seal of approval on a student's capability. And with that capability, it's time for us to take a final review of this learning journey. As part of our review, I've highlighted 8 critical points from our reading. Moving forward with Back to Basics, took a quick look at competencies, outcomes, and objectives. Bloom's is blooming again. We considered an old version of Bloom's taxonomy, a new version, and then a Web 2.0 version. Learner-focused teaching focused on what and how, and related to learning, not grades, and also included a view of self-assessment. Measuring knowledge, which included declarative knowledge, procedural knowledge, and problem solving, was also looked at. Content Matters looked at 3 steps, and they focused on what was measured. They focused on how many times we have to see something to know that our students have it. And then we moved on to the frame of reference, which looked at ability reference, growth reference, norm reference, and criterion reference. And from there we took a look at assessments starting with formative. And there we saw we could find out with formative assessments what the learner thinks he or she can or cannot do, and that feedback should be consistent, continuous, and descriptive. Summative assessments took a look at the end state in mind, and that was where the students could compare themselves to others and even to the standard. And this concludes the simple review of HE 527, Units 1 and 2 reading assignments. And of course, like any good student using any references, I need to show you what the references are. Thanks for listening.